we all did a movie together.
Oh man.
Do you remember this?
What I remember about Brothers of the Frontier is the hair. They put like little glue. It was like
Yes.
little
Yep.
glue in my hair, and they
Yeah.
glue these pieces into my hair, and it was a whole long process. First night that I had to sleep with these
Oh,
beads in
dude.
my head, and sleeping on these beads and going, why did I agree to do this? That's the only
Yeah.
time I ever said, why did I agree to do that?
You loved it. You were like, I'm gonna go do a movie with the Lawrence brothers. This is literally
No.
the end of my career.
Everybody, welcome to the Brotherly Love Pod. Thank you for joining us here on Friday. Like and subscribe, and we have a very special guest.
Yes, we do, everybody. A dear friend of ours. We've known this guy for almost 40 years. I know you guys know who he is. Everybody, welcome to the Brotherly Love Pod. Mark Paul Gosselaar, everybody,
Woo!
in the house.
Dude. Thanks
Cheers.
for being
Mark?
here, man.
How are you, buddy?
I'm doing pretty darn well. Thank you
Yeah?
for asking. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys again.
Good to
It
see
had,
you
it
too,
had
man.
been it had been a minute since we saw each other.
I
Yeah,
know, a long time. It's sort of amazing, you know, when you do this as long as we have, man. It really like decades go by. I mean, they really
crazy.
do. And then you see somebody again, and you're like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like that much time has passed, but boy, the years are passing.
Yeah.
You know, quickly.
It was funny, before the podcast, we were actually talking about guitars, and I was thinking about, Andy's put about 25 years into a guitar, and I was thinking, I've probably been noodling around on a guitar for over 20 years. And and I'm just no better than I was 20 years ago because I haven't stuck with it, right? So I look at Andy and I'm so jealous that you stuck with something, because it's something that I wish. It's like a language, right? Like music is a language, and the more you know, I just think the more complex of a person you've become. So I take my hat off to you, Andy, and I'm jealous. I'm jealous of the amount of time you've put into something, and look at the fruits that it's produced. I mean, people know your music worldwide, and
Dude.
I just had to put that little dig in there just to bring you back down to earth.
Ah, it's a good one, man. I
Dude,
couldn't
you know
have done
what's
that any
funny?
better myself.
I
Oh,
completely
man.
identify with you on this because I started playing the guitar at like 5 or 6, and I felt the same way about it. Like, I was in love with the electric guitar, and I didn't stick with it. So Andy was kind of my prodigy in the sense, my little brother. I was like, Andy,
Yeah.
you're gonna master this thing, because I wish I had, and he did, man. So I'm
Dude,
the same
I don't
as
know
you.
about
Andy
that, but-
plays so good. So good. It's nuts. I took piano lessons for like 1 year when I was like about 7, 8, and I learned chords, and I've just banged my way through to the point where I've gotten, like, I can play okay, much better than I did, and I practiced a lot, but I never took it to the level that Andy
Yeah.
did, where Andy can read music. He's classically trained.
Yeah.
Dude, the
can't.
amount of hours that
Can't
he's
read
put in to actually, yes, you can.
No, I mean,
The amount of hours that Andy's put in
Yeah.
to playing, dude, it'll blow you away. I mean, he could do the whole lead thing and strum at the same time, and it's
Yeah,
pretty
like,
sensational.
It's funny because when I saw Ed Sheeran in concert, like 9 years ago,
Yeah.
when he was doing his tour with just him,
Yeah.
and everybody was blown away. Now, he's a great artist. I
He
really
is.
like
I
I
do
like
too.
Ed Sheeran.
I do too.
He's a great writer. He writes, so he wrote some great songs
He
for
did.
Bieber. He's a good writer. He's a great
Yeah.
guitar player. But everybody in the audience was shocked that he's doing the rhythm, and then he hits the loop pedal, and he's doing the solo as well as singing. And for me, I was like, I see that at home every
Yeah,
day. It
that's
wasn't
awesome.
as
Thanks, bud.
impressive to me,
Yeah.
because honestly, Andy has
Andy
reached
can do
that
it
level.
better.
He
Yeah.
could totally compete with Ed Sheeran.
can.
on
I appreciate
stage.
that.
No problem.
Growing up and stuff, I was really lucky. My family, my brothers, my friends, they always really cultivated me playing guitar. So I was always the guy at 2 in the morning having like a fire pit playing guitar
It's true.
night after night after night for years and years and years. And I had
You played, man, with a band.
Yeah,
for
I had a really
decades.
good band, and we played all around LA and had some residencies, and I actually had a record deal with the great Glenn Ballard at one point, who is awesome. He's a music producer that did Jagged Little Pill and Aerosmith's Pink and Michael Jackson Man in the Mirror. I believe he co-wrote
He
it.
did, yeah.
Anyway,
He did.
he's awesome. VH1 was doing this whole documentary show, and honestly, the business screwed it all up,
They
dude.
did?
They
Yeah.
messed it all up. They like shelved the record, and then Glenn and I had a falling out because VH1, the show that they were filming, was a disaster.
And everybody's got stories
And-
like this, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
and then I was like, I think I'll just do music for me because I'm not gonna put it in the hands of.
But it's coming
the
back
business
around.
anymore.
It's coming back around because
Every time I go out, they pull me back in, man.
Well, no, it's coming back around though, Ann, because now you're scoring
Yeah.
all of our original content,
Yeah.
including the films. and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you score everything.
Yeah.
And that's so
It's-
dope.
It's really dope. Yeah, it's cool, especially because I've been dabbling and really lucky to do some directing and stuff, and it's fun to kind of like do the Edgar Wright thing where you make a piece of music or something and you go into to filming knowing exactly how the beats are
Right.
going to play out, and then also just it goes hand in hand with editing and stuff. It's been such a huge tool and such a useful thing, and I love music so
Next
much.
time you're back in LA, Mark, you got to come into studio and you two guys can jam.
Yes.
A little dueling guitars.
That's not going to happen. But what
Come
I
on! Come on!
what could happen is my son. He's 21.
Wow.
He, we have 4 kids. We have 2 olders and 2 youngers, and my oldest daughter is 18. My oldest son is 21. And during the pandemic, well, to back it up, he did the piano lessons at 7. My daughter did the same thing. We did guitar lessons here and there. Nothing ever stuck, but we stayed with it. Like every week, we would have somebody come, or they would go to get a lesson, and it was always like a grind, right? It was hard to get them to like it.
I know.
And then during the pandemic, my son picked up a guitar, and he just put every hour of the day into this thing.
Yeah.
And by the time he graduated high school, he had a full ride to go to Berklee School of Music in
Yes!
Boston,
Oh, wow.
and
That's
Yes!
and Belmont over Nashville.
Wow.
Oh my
Being the
gosh.
artist that he is, he turned them down. And,
Good.
yeah.
Good.
But anyway, cut to, he just had his first solo gig in New York City over the weekend. So it all comes back to when he comes back to LA, I'm going to have him hook up with you.
Bro, that
And
would
you
be
Yeah.
guys.
Yo,
That would be
Mark,
awesome.
100%, like
Yeah,
no
dude.
joke. You
Yeah.
have to have him do that. It
Yeah.
would be really cool.
We have a fully operational recording studio
Yeah, we
here,
do.
as well as this podcast studio. That's what was here before the podcast studio. Is I
Right.
actually have a recording gear a unit and had a drum kit and a raise stage and the whole thing. But
Oh,
that's been
that's
now,
amazing.
now- yeah,
He's
So,
putting
but
together his album right now.
that's
he's,
awesome, dude.
He went to college, Musicians Institute here in LA.
Cool.
He went for engineering, so he knows how to work the boards, and interned over at Henson Studios for a while. And so he's a really good kid, very, very, very talented, obviously, to be able to pick up a guitar at 16 years old and then, turn it into a career at the moment. So,
That
Dude,
is so
when
cool.
Yeah.
when you have a gift, you have a gift, right? I mean, even they say that Michael Jordan didn't pick up a basketball till he was in junior high, and neither did Kobe Bryant, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, when you have it, I think Pete Sampras didn't pick up a tennis racket till he was in middle school or something. So I feel like when you're gifted and you feel inclined to try something, if you're meant to play it, dude, you're just,
Yeah.
or you're meant to do it. That's just
And
what.
that
you know.
also goes for like learning an instrument and picking up new things. I always say, I mean, it's really never too late to pick something up and get into it. You know what I mean? Like even if it's just basic scales or whatever it is, like you can always improve at any point in life.
But how
that's,
cool is
that's
it?
where I'm at.
Buddy.
No, I know you're pointing at me because that's literally where I'm at. I'm on week 16 of actually playing.
Great.
Like I'm going to now
Amazing.
put my every day I'm just going to pick up my guitar.
Fantastic.
And
Love it.
I work on my whatever I'm working on. But if it's my minimum is 10 minutes, and my maximum just can be sometimes 2-3 hours until my fingers, are hurt, and I need to soak them because I'm sensitive.
Don't soak them. Let those calluses build up, man. Eventually, you'll lose feeling. I can touch hot plates. I really can. I can't feel anything on the tips of my fingers on my left hand. They're done.
When I
They're
say
toasted.
soak them, I soak them in acid, like
Perfect.
boric acid.
That's what.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Good
So
man.
we're
Just
good.
make them burn.
Good man.
Burn.
Little baking soda and salt. Yeah, I love that. Good stuff.
That is so cool,
Yeah,
man.
that is. I actually, I had a slight tragedy in the guitar world. I was making some darn video to like a cover song to post online, which is so ridiculous, but I'm doing it because why not? People seem to enjoy it. And my 30-year-old prized possession Gibson acoustic took a plunge, and I cracked the head. And I literally cried. I actually
He
sat
did.
down
He cried.
and I know I'm not a crier, man. I bury
I
my
wouldn't have
feelings.
cried. He cried.
I'm not really in touch with any of my emotions. usually, and for hours I cried. Long story short, it's at Neely Guitars. Neely is a badass guitar doctor on Sunset. He's fixed.
Is he gonna do it?
Yeah, he's fixing it, and it
Wow.
will have a rebirth. It will rise like a phoenix, and I'll play again. And I luckily got hooked up with Gibson, and I think they might actually hook me up with a replacement, which is pretty sweet because I love Gibson guitars. I'm like
Gibson. We're a Gibson family. He just
Dude.
actually bought oh my gosh, why am I spacing?
What is
Not
that,
a
Les
Taylor.
Paul?
What's that?
What is it, a Les Paul or acoustic?
No,
or
no,
electric?
not a Gibson. Why am I spacing on the guitar? I
Martin?
bought it for him.
A Martin?
A Martin, yes.
Like a
So he finally
D38 or something?
He bought a Martin. That's what he's actually playing in New York.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Dad, when he turned 21, he's like, I want this Martin. Can we go and find it? So we went to these, we went to like a dealer show.
Yep.
And we found the one that spoke to him.
Fantastic.
So I said to him, I go, I'm getting back into playing guitar. And there's actually a photo. Oh man, I'm all over the place right now. But I've been playing guitar since he was born, right? I mean, I was like noodling around.
Dude, I remember seeing you on back in like Saved by the Bell with a freaking guitar playing and
that
stuff.
wasn't true. That was not me.
That was okay.
It was me, but I didn't play guitar then.
Yeah, you did. You played some Chuck Berry scale. Like you did some stuff, man.
It was beyond like, just like we had no idea what we were doing.
Whatever,
it's not even me singing. But I started playing probably in my late 20s. There's a photo of me with this Fender Stratocaster, and I buy really cheap guitars because I just don't feel like I'm worthy, right? So I have this Mexican Strat that I bought at Guitar Center for like $400. I'm playing this thing, and in the photo is my son with my buddy who's playing the bass guitar, and in the photo is my son, probably 2 or 3 years old, with like a little rusty like looking acoustic guitar. So we cut to, he's playing a show in LA. Somebody takes a picture. He's playing this Strat. And I'm like, wow, that looks really familiar. And sure enough, it was my 20-year-old Mexican Strat that he was playing. And he's just shredding on this thing. And I go, Michael, there was actually a photo of, so I showed him the photo and it was just like, it just brought everything back. But going to Gibson, so when he went to New York and I bought him this Martin, I said, hey, I'm getting back into guitar. I'm playing on this, $200 Fender. It's a good acoustic, but it's not great. I used to have a Hummingbird.
I want a Hummingbird.
It was gifted to me.
No.
When I did Franklin and Bash by Gibson, because my character on the show played and and they said, here's a legit guitar.
Oh my God.
You can have it.
Oh my God.
But you got to play it on the show. And we did. And it's featured on the show.
Bro.
So I said to my son, I go, do you know where my Hummingbird is? He goes, oh yeah. It's it's at my house. I've been playing that for 4 years. I go, 4 years? When did you take it? He's like, well, you weren't really playing. And he goes, I said, okay, great. Now that you're away, can I get it back so I can, play on that? He's like, Dad, I've put a lot of hours into this thing. And I'm like,
my gosh.
oh
my gosh.
You can totally speak to this, Andy. He bonded with it.
Yeah.
He won't let me have it back. He's like,
I mean, I get it, dude. I want one. That's what I'm in the market for.
Yeah. He goes, I think it's mine now. And I go, I don't think so, but let's work something out later. Maybe the Martin will become your number one. And, I could take your side piece. I could take my side piece back. I mean, what is going on here? So
that is
crazy.
so funny. Yeah, the Hummingbird.
So
You
wait.
mean my Hummingbird. No, it's my
Dude.
Hummingbird. You're my son, and that's also my Hummingbird. That's not the way it works. Yes, it does work that way.
I'm trying to think. So, well,
that is awesome, dude.
I have a thing. So I bought a Hummingbird like 25 years ago and I loved it, but I have to have a cutout on my acoustic guitars because I do a lot of rhythm and soloing at the same time. All right. And I'll use like loop pedals and stuff. So I really like to get up on the high 20, 24 frets. I returned my Hummingbird because I couldn't get up there, but I love that guitar, and Hummingbird has been my thing. Like even on like social media, my first EP that I released that nobody's ever heard, it's a Hummingbird. Like Hummingbird has been my thing, right? So this year I go online and I see that they finally released. I think it's the first year
cut out
a Hummingbird Rosewood, which is I gotta have a Rosewood guitar because I'm really into Rosewood. and it's got to cut out. And my mind has been
Wow.
blown. So I called everybody I know in the business, like, do you know anybody at Gibson? Because they're really expensive guitars. They're, they're expensive. And I was like, do you know anybody I know? I just want anything, even a couple $100 off, whatever. And nobody could find anybody at Gibson. They're like the unicorn. So I'm desperate and broken, and my girlfriend picks up on my emotions, which is great. And she baits out of me.
That's why I'm with her.
Well, yeah, because again, I'm not really in touch with my emotions. I don't. I try not to be.
I don't even know I had them until she told me. And
Pretty
I started
much,
crying
yeah.
a lot.
Which is amazing. She's taught me to be, in touch with them. So
It's amazing.
yeah.
Now I'm a crier.
Now I'm a
Complete
crier.
crier.
I cry every day. No, she's like, what's wrong? I said my guitar broke. Blah blah. She's like, I think I know somebody at Gibson. Long story short, she connects me with the guy who's in touch with the artist program at Gibson. Like, my girlfriend knows the only guy in the world, and this guy happens to know the guy that gave me my guitar from Gibson 25 years ago.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
It's like it's meant to be. The universe has provided. So I'm talking to him, and he's going to try to work something out. So if you're in the market, buddy,
Oh yeah.
I can pass you along.
Well, you passed your person along because I also have a person at Gibson, and it's a female. So we'll trade. We'll trade after the
Okay.
show.
Was your
I'll-
person better?
Wait, my person's a piece of crap.
No.
I want your person.
I don't know.
Just sell them out in 2
We'll,
seconds.
Yeah,
we'll talk after
no.
the show. Just text me.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Hey,
Great.
that's great.
Great.
That's-
Okay.
Look at this.
Look at this,
Look at
dude.
all
All right.
this
Well, we
guitar
definitely
talk.
got to hook up the jam between your boy. He's got to come by here.
Michael,
and we gotta,
right? Your
and we
son.
gotta-
Your son's name is
Yeah,
Michael.
my son is Michael.
Amazing, dude. Amazing.
Crazy. So you have 2 older kids, and then you have 2 younger kids, right?
I have 2 older. So both my olders are in New York. My daughter, 18, has a full ride to go be an animator at a school in New York. So she's very artistic, obviously.
Rad.
My son actually followed her, and now he's playing in New York.
That's so crazy. You know, I have 2 older daughters, and then I have a 2-year-old daughter. But my almost 19-year-old daughter, she's also an incredible artist, and she's also not. Part of her degree will be animation. It's funny. She's in themed entertainment design, which is Disney is all over this thing, right? Because it's full submersion into sort of your experience. So when you go stay at a hotel, or you go to a shopping mall, or you go to a movie, it's full immersion into whatever you're doing, right? So it's almost 4D, 5D, 6D, whatever facet they want to call it. And her themed entertainment design program, she's doing amazing, and that's what she does. But she's an incredible artist.
It's very similar.
Extremely similar.
Yeah.
She actually wanted to go into animation and wanted to be an Imagineer, and eventually wants to run Disney and bring it back to its roots. She's excited about
And
doing
employ
that. She wants
all
to
of
be
us.
She wants to be the first female president of Disney. Which
Hey.
I
And
think
then give us-
she's going to do.
Give us jobs.
So my Charlie is she's amazing, and I can't believe that because it's almost the same thing. It's literally the same
Love that.
thing. She was
Yeah.
actually going to go for animation, and then this themed entertainment design program was opened up at her school, and she was like, "This is incredible," and then she got in, which is like incredible. She shouldn't. I mean, it's really hard to do that, and she did it. So I'm really
Great.
proud of her. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And now you have a 2-year-old. So you're still in it. I mean, you're basically trying to keep that rifle from getting wet. You got it above water.
Dude,
Just-
I'm in it, man. I'm in it. It's and just like you, it is because your 2 younger ones are how old are the younger ones?
10 and 11.
Okay. So, there's a spread there too, which is crazy. Yeah, my middle daughter, Libby, she just turned 15. So they're like 13 years apart, which is crazy. A little less than 13 years apart, but and Andy and I are almost 12 years apart. So, I feel like, I mean, and it really is cool to see Libby sort of react and play with Dylan. They're really starting to bond and get this really cute relationship.
great.
And she calls her D. D's home. D's home. Yeah, she goes, hello there, Libby. But D
Yeah.
for right now.
D.
Yeah.
She calls her D.
D. Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yep. And
Dude.
and Libby comes home from school. I bring her home from school, and to see Dylan light up and run down the hallway to
Aw.
Libby is wow, because she's never been like the older sister. She
Right,
spent
always been the
she
younger.
spent 12 and a half, 13 years of her life being the baby. So
Yeah, that's
for her
cool.
now to be on the floor playing with Dylan, it's wild. It's life is an amazing journey, right, man? It goes, I mean, unexpected, right? It's certainly not how you plan it, and yet these twists and turns happen, and then you're sitting there going like, well, this is pretty cool. It's nothing like I thought, but it's pretty cool. It's really an amazing sort of journey. Anyway, I love to hear that you got 2 older ones and two younger ones, because that's I know we're kind of right around the same age, and it's it really is wild. It really is wild. But I'm in it for sure. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Andy was a robo talker. I remember because Andy and I are so many years apart.
Me? I think my
was
brother
more like-
Joe's the
I
robo
was more
talker.
like an uncle to Andy, right? So Andy would literally be at my door in our house growing up, and it would literally be he'd knock at the door, be like, no joke, Goaty. He used to call me Goaty because he couldn't say Joey.
Yes, it's true.
And he used to say Goaty. I
he
swear,
wouldn't
I'd be in my
stop.
room, be like this. He's got to stop. I open the door. I'm like, literally, Goaty. Door opens. Want to play? Andy, listen, I need like 5 minutes. All right, give me 5 minutes. Close the door. Literally on closing the door. Go. Okay, so Dylan is the exact same talker. Dad. The exact same thing. She is this nonstop talker. It's incredible, bro.
Shortly after that Goatee phase, we all did a movie together.
Oh man.
Do you remember this? You look perplexed. Do you remember the movie we did
I
together?
do remember. I remember like little pieces of it, right? I don't remember
You loved
much
it,
on
man.
set.
You loved it. You were like, I'm gonna go do a movie with the Lawrence brothers. This is literally
No.
the end of my career. Everybody's fired in this room.
The biggest thing for me, which doing that film, was the hair that they had to put on me.
The
Yes.
long blonde hair, dude.
Oh my gosh.
Dude,
You had
remember
Legends
that?
of the Fall.
tremendous, like Legends of the Fall hair
And
extensions.
dude,
on
just
that
just
stuff.
to preface this with saying, we were so just tickled pink and honored that you wanted to be a part of this movie. dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that because I don't know if we expressed that up, but we were every day that you came
Yeah,
on
we
set,
were
we were
like-
like,
yeah, we
I
were
can't believe
stoked.
Mark is doing this with us.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we were really honored to have you, bro.
Yeah, we were.
I appreciate it. I don't even know how it all came to be or where in my career I was. I just remember
Probably
it
at
was
a
in
low
Vancouver.
point. Probably at a low point. I'm sure at a real low point.
No, but we were in Vancouver.
Yes.
Jonathan Frakes was your
Yeah.
dad or my dad?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was our dad. You were the oldest
head.
son of the other family.
That's
that wanted to
right.
kick us off of our land.
You know what's interesting is that I didn't start taking what we do and in the business seriously until probably 2 or 3 years after that, maybe.
Right.
Well, not really until the late 90s that I start going, man, I'm doing something here that could be a career, right? Before then, I was just kind of going along with the flow.
Yep.
And so I don't remember a lot of it because I didn't have it wasn't, I don't know, without sounding sort of
You were drinking a lot. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
no, I may have. I don't know. I mean, I think
No.
child actors, we all had some
Yes.
sort of
Oh, yeah.
vice
No,
at
we
that
did.
point.
Brothers of the
But
Frontier. That's what it was
it-
called. Brothers of the Frontier.
Brothers of the Frontier. I remember pieces of it, but I don't remember why I did it, how I got it, the process. I don't remember, working on the lines and studying like all these things that are super important to me now. Like, right, like the whole process of it all, and just being very present for things. That's very important to me now, right? And has been for the past 25, 30 years. But what I remember about Brothers of the Frontier is the hair, because they had to weave this hair into me. And what they did back then, and they would never do now, which they put like little glue. It was like
Yes.
little glue in my hair, and they
Yeah.
glue these pieces into my hair. And it was a whole long process. Probably took over 3 hours. I remember the first night that I had to sleep with these beads in my head, and sleeping on these beads and going, why did I agree to do this? That's the only time I ever said, why did I agree to do that? Was like the hair thing, because I thought it would be cool. Yeah, you guys were great. I mean, I had a good time. I don't remember being on set. I remember Jonathan Frakes, and Jonathan and we now see each other. Like we saw each other at the 90s con. I'll see him, and he's so sweet and so genuine, and we still have a great relationship. And it's funny because I'll see him, and I've just known him for my entire career, but I just put it together. It's because of the movie Brothers of the Frontier. I thought it was just like we just knew each other because we knew each other. But now I
wild?
remember.
Isn't that wild?
Crazy.
Isn't that wild, man?
There's a great moment. I think it's Dennis Quaid and Jake Gyllenhaal where they're promoting a movie or something, and they're like, so how's it being in the second movie together? And they both look at each other like, wait, we did a movie together. They both did a big movie. It was like
yeah.
it was like Geostorm or some movie where like one was the dad,
Yeah.
one was, and they never actually worked together on set. They just communicated through radios and stuff, and they totally forgot about it.
Yeah, it's
but
true.
yeah, that's it happens. It blurs together when you're in it for 20, 30, 40 years. It blurs together,
Dude,
man. You're like, what
Dude,
the hell?
it does.
Yeah.
It does.
But I remember. I remember.
I really identify with you when it comes to acting and taking it seriously at a certain point in your career.
Yeah, for sure.
I was very similar to that. I was kind of floating through it in the same kind of a way, and even though I had some great opportunities, I didn't put the investment into them that I do now, obviously. And at that certain point, probably like late 20s or mid to late 20s, when it really clicked for me, when I was like, oh my gosh, I'm starting to love the process, and now this is really something that I actually really love doing. Before that, it was just kind of I really identify with what you just said.
Same.
I feel that.
Same here, coasting. I remember it though because I was a young kid and it was very impressionable. And in the movie, I get separated from these guys, and I get kidnapped by you.
That's right.
I don't know if you remember this, but this is what happens by you and your family. So I spent some time. So I remember hanging out with you, and you were always very cool, bro. You always were.
So
it was a very impressionably wonderful person.
My current gig that I'm on, I play a guy who kidnaps children. So I guess you're saying that I teed it up back then.
And it stuck with you, obviously. So it must be a real. That's
your first napping.
No, but you know what?
His first kidnapping was Andy.
No, but you know what?
It really got him ready.
But you know what though? We always said that because I don't know if you had played a kind of a villain before that, but we were surprised. We're like, man, he plays such a great villain.
You do so well.
You were such like the good guy,
I actually
on TV.
I actually don't think.
Found, by the way, Found is awesome.
Yeah, Found's great.
Huge fan.
Great job.
Huge fan. Fantastic show. You were fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yep.
No, man, look, man, you've put together one hell of a career, honestly.
Yeah, bro.
Honestly, I mean, it's been and I identify, as you know, because you grew up in this sort of teeny bopper thing, and we were always at those, like the teen bop things, and I would see at the Nickelodeon Kid Choice Awards, and all these Sega All-Star Kids challenges, and these things that we would do together. And look, when you get good at what you do, and you start at the ages that we did, I mean, and you had the kind of success you had, with Saved by the Bell and with Blossom and stuff. It's very tough to
turn that
into something that is meaningful.
Well,
it's very tough to
a respectable career as an adult. Absolutely,
it's really
it's
tough
really tough.
to do that.
It's really
and
tough.
You've done it, dude. I mean,
you did it.
You've
man.
done it. So testament to you. And the work that you put in on, like you said, Franklin and Bash, and all the stuff you did in NYPD Blue. I mean,
yeah, man,
dude, you've done amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Dead Man on Campus. I love that movie.
Dead Man on Campus.
Yeah.
My God, I remember that. That's right. That's right. No,
I was just thinking I actually just pulled up Dead Man on Campus this morning because I'm a huge Howard Stern fan, and it's funny you guys were talking about podcasts because he just despises people with podcasts. It's like everybody's got a podcast, and what I do,
well, we're impeding on his space, honestly. That's
true.
what podcasts are doing now. Is they're becoming kind of radio talk shows.
And people that do interviews here, may not go because they're like, I just did an interview, and
exactly.
It's just. But anyway, going back to Dead Man on Campus, I was listening to Howard Stern and Mike White, who does White Lotus. Was on, and I totally forgot. Mike White wrote the screenplay for Dead Man on Campus.
How crazy is that?
My gosh!
Yep.
Are
How
you
crazy
serious?
is that?
Yeah. And it's funny because when I was listening to the episode of Mike on Howard's show,
wow,
I'm like, I've known Mike again. It's like one of those things. Like I've known Mike my entire career, and I'm like, how do I know Mike, and why do I, his face, and every time I see him doing press, I'm like, I just have this connection with him. I forgot he wrote Dead Man on Campus, did the screenplay. Yeah.
Wow.
I remember him from Survivor. He was a contestant on Survivor. Did you know that?
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
What?
Yeah, you could go but watch him. You can go watch the season. Like that's what I've known him from years. One of the big earlier seasons. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Chad and Carrie Hayes wrote Brothers of the Frontier, correct?
I don't know.
No,
they were Horse Sense.
Oh, Horse Sense. That's
different.
That's
different movie.
That's
Different movie we did.
Right,
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah, he's dude that and
dude, White Lotus is killing.
Wow.
Right now.
What a
I think
show.
it's so
He was
cool.
contested on
Survivor.
Yeah.
Wow. Like
That's
went
really
pretty far.
That's really
you
weird.
can watch him.
As a matter of fact, playing bad guys, I think one of the things that I remember we had that, I don't know if you remember this, but our stunt doubles had a big fight sequence up on a rock. And we were just talking about this a couple weeks ago because
this is haunted Joe, by the way,
I've always
for
tried to
years.
be just like you. And actually, I would watch you go through your iterations of fitness throughout your life, and you know, and I've always tried to stay fit, you know. And there was a period of time, you know, obviously in our teens where it's like it's all about size and how much,
Right.
and then you realize like what an idiot, I'm destroying my body. I just want to be in good shape and I want to be healthy, and then you just try to go, okay, I'm going to be leaner, lighter weight, you know, so I can be mobile and not look like a freak in shirts, you know, and all these things. And I remember that they had this big, we had this big fight sequence where our two characters, because you were the antagonist in the movie, up on this rock. And for some reason, I didn't have a shirt on, okay, on the
Classic.
rock. You did, so your stunt double was able to, you know, because you've always been in great shape. So it really didn't matter what your stunt double looked like, right? And these guys were competent stunt doubles. My stunt double
Joe really
looked like I mean, God bless this guy. He was a great stunt double, but he was not in shape at all. And I was looking at I was without a shirt for like 3 minutes. So what a disaster.
Well, you guys were also. He was a different shade. He was
He
like
was a whole different
he
shade.
hadn't seen the
He had
sun
no
in a while,
muscle
and-
tone
Yeah.
at all. He looked like my dad. I was like, this is so. And then the very last shot when they cut to me, I'm like, you know, when I win, I'm like, you know, standing over you or whatever.
Oh,
They're
my
like,
gosh.
oh yeah. I'm like, oh my, it doesn't even match. It was so funny. But you were so good playing the bad guy. I remember you telling me that,
Bro, wait.
one of the reasons why you took it was because
Oh.
you hadn't been able to, that you thought it'd be kind of cool to play like a bad guy. Because, you know, coming off of whatever, the stuff
Hold
you've
on.
done, you probably hadn't had an opportunity to play something
gotta
like
say
that. So
something.
maybe that was one of the reasons.
I saw something about.
I'll never forget that fight sequence. I'll never forget
It stuck with him. It's haunted
Yeah,
for you.
it's haunted me because I've been reminded of it.
I saw something that, and again, and you might, if you don't talk about this, we don't talk about this, but I was dying of laughter because you were talking about how your character on Saved by the Bell, Zack Morris, was an evil man. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Is this a sensitive subject? Is this too sensitive? I don't know. I'm just asking.
No.
I was
because-
dying. You were so serious too, and I just could not. I was dying of laughter. I was like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever seen, dude."
Because you know how it is. Like when we do press for things, like you're just trying not to sound like an asshole, right?
Yeah.
Of course, true.
You're
Of
just,
course.
I mean, you just watch what you say because
Yes.
now, I mean, when we were growing up, and thankfully there was no social media around when
Oh,
we
yeah.
were
Right.
growing up,
Right.
because I had said and done things that I'm probably not proud of today. No, I know I'm not proud of
Sure.
today. You know, it's just a
Who
process.
hasn't?
It's being a human being and evolving and you know, but there wasn't a paper trail. You know, the paper trail is in my head, and you know, and I'll do what I want with it. But nowadays, like anytime you say something, it lives in infamy, right?
Yeah, I know,
Yes,
dude.
it does.
It's just out there forever.
Never dies. Ever.
And so like when people ask me about the villain thing, part of me is like, guys, we're actors. This is what we do. I'm not playing me there. I'm playing the character, and I like to be challenged. I like different. You just like different
shades,
flavors throughout
different
life.
colors.
If I had to eat the same meal, I could do that same meal, but I'd rather try different things. And
100%.
and sometimes you like things, and sometimes I'm able to be successful in things. Other times I'm not. But that's life, right? It's ups and downs, and same with our careers. And hopefully we get the chance to do that. So when somebody asked me that one time, I was just like, listen, I've been playing an asshole and a shithead since I was a kid, Zack Morris. And I did have a point to it because my buddy created a show for Funny or Die called Zack Morris's Trash.
Yeah,
And it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
He created that. And when you watch it, his name is Dashiell Driscoll. We actually had a podcast during the pandemic together. And then he was also a writer for our Saved by the Bell reboot. Just a brilliant guy. But he came up with this whole alternate universe where if you look through his lens, Zack Morris is a real piece of shit.
Oh my
Like-
God, that's so funny.
And but he's not wrong. So when you look at it, you're like, oh my gosh, he's absolutely got a point. So I took that as like, yeah, I've been playing that villain. I've been playing
Amazing.
a really shitty character my entire career.
Amazing.
Wow.
That guy was evil.
Yeah, that's
Evil
how
bastard.
that came up. Because what I
crazy,
wanted to
dude.
say probably was, come on, is that really a question? I mean, like,
Dude,
you know,
I found you being incredibly humorous about it with how dry and just straight you. I thought it was so good, dude. I was dying. I loved it.
Yeah,
I
you got to be. I mean, you gotta understand. There's this. I don't like doing press, but it is a necessary thing that you have to do. I've always said this, like the two things that I actually get paid for, because I probably act for free, but the two things I feel like I get paid for are doing press and wardrobe fittings. Like I hate wardrobe fittings.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
So
Yes.
true, dude. So
That
true.
is so true, man.
Yeah, you're right, man. The moment in front of the camera that you would do for free. It's
Sure,
all
maybe.
the other stuff.
Yeah,
It's all the other stuff that actually is what you get paid for. So true.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. Yep,
It's
that
the-
moment between action and cut, that's just a gift.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. And there's either abject failure or complete success.
And I
that's just
love
sort
it,
of
dude.
The way it works.
You know, I learned this again through acting, and this is another thing that's wonderful about being an actor is you get to pick up all these little cool trades.
Yeah,
like,
you do.
And perfect example, I had to play hockey in this movie, and I really learned a very valuable life lesson about failure. I was afraid to fall, and I was not getting my edge because I was afraid to fall.
Right.
So this trainer came in, he literally forced me to fall on my ass
Right.
for 3 weeks.
Right.
And I found my edge. And I learned something very, very important about failure.
Yep.
You don't grow when you win.
No.
You grow
When you fail.
when you fail.
Absolutely.
And that's some of the most important life lessons you're
It's
ever
true.
going to have. So looking
I've
at
grown so much over the last 10 years. So much.
Having to do this podcast with you guys.
Yeah. God, I failed. Look where I am.
Oh, God.
This is a-
Anyway.
no,
No, but it's true. There's no growth in comfort.
No.
There really isn't, and
No.
it's all the ups and downs that shapes you.
it really is true, man.
provides
And-
you
Yeah,
context.
it really is. It
Yeah.
really is. And you know what? Like I don't know how you felt about this, but like, there was a period of time like right after Blossom, because it was a teen thing, and I'm sure Saved by the Bell, where like, everyone's telling like, oh, you got to get away from that. You have to act like it never happened, sort of like, you don't
Happened
want
to
you
a
don't
lot
wanna-
of kids
Well, it
this
did.
way.
Well, look, I'll never forget. I remember like,
Well, typecasting,
and I
right?
think
That's the thing.
and I think perspective and distance and always changes as you age and you look back on things, and things align so much differently once you get some distance from them. I remember, I'll never forget, and I digress here for a minute, I'll get back to it, but I remember Jennifer Hudson, like right after American Idol, and she got her first movie role, and they were like, isn't this incredible that you were an unknown on American Idol and now you're like getting nominated for an Oscar? And I remember she took real offense to it and like didn't want to talk about American Idol. And I remember thinking to myself, like, that's great. Like, nobody would know who you were if it wasn't for American Idol. Like, your body of work, sure, some of it's not as profound as others, and maybe you are blessed enough to have an opportunity to be in something really profound like she was and get nominated for an award and with accolades, even though that's not why we do it. But like, it feels cool if it happens. It's never happened to me. Accolades.
You said
Never-
accolades.
Oh, accolades. I had
never
an
happened to me.
Altoid earlier and I got confused. No, and I've been drinking. No, but and then I heard her not. So she has a big hit like talk type show now,
Oh, yeah.
and I heard her not so in the distant past say, actually I didn't want to talk about it, but now I actually embrace it
Of
so
course.
much, and I feel like I went through my journey with that, like the whole woe thing, and like people like always wanted me to say it, and I was like, I don't want to ever say this word again.
Yeah.
And then, like, I'm removed from it 10 years, and I look back on it. It was such a fond period of time, and it transcended a generation, and it became part of their childhood. And, dude, Saved by the Bell, I mean my older daughters watch that show, right?
Yep.
So, and
Yeah.
believe it or not, my wife, her and her sisters, she's one of 3 sisters. They grew up with that in their house. She actually quotes lines from that. She said one of her favorite lines, and because I told her you were going to be on the show today, and she was like, and not that you would remember the line, but she said that like, there are 2 Beldings in the building, and one of them is balding. And her and her sisters said this line over and over and over again. So it's just a testament, man, to what an incredible career you've had, how long you've been doing it.
Yeah, bro.
And
you
stayed
a really good
a really
person,
great
which is
guy.
actually the biggest,
You know?
the biggest thing.
win.
That's the biggest accomplishment, bro.
Your family,
you have,
You've
dude.
always been cool to us. You
Yeah.
showed up today.
Yeah.
You're in, pal.
You're in
You're
the
in.
brotherhood, Gosselaar.
Yeah.
No. But, man, look, I mean, and what do you feel that way? I mean, do you feel like there were moments where you would look back on things and be like, you know what, God, I wish I'd never done it, or I don't want to talk about it, and now it's much different with that perspective and distance that you have from that teen success that you experienced,
I think it's like any relationship. Sometimes you're in a relationship and then, sometimes the split, you can split away from it and feel like, you know, you just move on with your life and not a big deal. And but the relationship that I had with Saved by the Bell was a pretty serious relationship.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so moving away from that took time. You know, it was one of those things where, look, I've got this new shiny job. Like, shouldn't we be talking about this? But everybody was like, no, but let's talk about that bigger job that you had over there, because that defined you and has defined you until this moment. So
Yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
I mean, it just took distance, right? It was just like a relationship where
Yeah, man.
you just needed distance to move on, to find new legs and to talk about something else. People still talk about it. I mean, you saw when we went to the 90s con, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, people, and now it's interesting because it's now so much time has passed.
I know.
I mean, not like so much. I mean, we're not that old, guys. Come on.
No, we're all
Not
right.
that.
We're hanging in there, man. We're hanging in there.
Yeah, we're still
But
there.
enough time has passed where I feel that people who come to see you now, they may have started with Saved by the Bell, but they've followed you through a
Yes.
career.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes.
you know, it's really, it's a nice place to be. Because I never really expected anything from anything. I mean, you know, when we did Saved by the Bell, we had no idea that it would be popular. Your show is popular. I mean, Blossom was a primetime show. You know, 90210 was a primetime show.
Right.
Some of these other shows that sort of were during our generation. But Saved by the Bell was one of those shows we were canceled every year. We would do 13, then we would do 10, then we would do, you know, 8 beach episodes. And so we had no idea, like we were never on that primetime schedule that you guys were on, where you did 22 and then, you know, you
Right. I
waited
didn't know
and then
that.
you did the upfronts in May, and then, you know, you were part of that
The old
cycle.
classic TV
We
schedule.
weren't.
Yep.
We
Wow.
did Saved by the Bell. I think we did 100 shows, a little over 100 shows. We did some primetime shows. We did a couple of TV movies and stuff like that. But really, it all happened within 4 years. And so
Wow.
but it
crazy.
didn't start to really take off, because Saved by the Bell was one of those shows, because it was Saturday morning,
Right.
that a lot of people didn't want to admit they watched, right? Because it wasn't a primetime show. It wasn't like
Yeah.
you know, the older kids weren't watching it.
So
That's right. That's right. That's right.
It's so weird because coming from my perspective, like that doesn't even factor into it.
know.
No.
It's so
Saved by
weird.
the
No.
Bell to me is up there with
No.
all of
It
them. Like
it didn't take off until 1996, when we were syndicated by Reicher. Reicher bought the rights to it for a
goodness.
very
Wow.
economical price, and then they syndicated it. That's when it took off. I mean, it literally, that's when people remembered coming home from school and
Right.
watching it, right? Because before then it was
Wow.
always on Saturday mornings.
Right.
And
So crazy.
yeah,
I did not know.
And
I
then
that.
you
didn't
come
realize
home
that
from
either.
school and it would be on in that 3 to 4 hour, 4 or
Correct.
5 hour, and then
Correct.
And then it
became
became a cultural phenomenon.
prime time
Yeah.
viewing for kids.
Right.
Like it was
and
it
you
was
gotta
like
underst-
TGIF.
You got to understand, right around that time in '96 was we had finished the prime time version in '94. So
Didn't
right
you
when
do
that
because
hit,
you
I
did
was trying to
college
find
years
a
or
job.
something?
What's that?
You did college years or
Yeah,
something,
the
right?
college
Say about
years. Yeah,
right.
the college
Got
years.
it.
So '96 was when I was trying to remove myself from Saved by the Bell, and that's when it was getting big.
Oh,
my
my
gosh,
gosh,
dude.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
I
so-
had no
Wow.
idea.
Oh, that's almost tumultuous. That's
So
a
you
little
lived
bit
through it almost twice.
Yeah.
It was like
Wow.
a slingshot. Like you were in it, and then you were like, okay, I'm over this.
done.
I had a great run, but now I'm gonna, now I got to grow up. And I'm sure your team was like, all right, we're gonna find like,
Yeah.
you're becoming an adult, a man. You got, facial hair. We're gonna find some, and then it slingshots. It becomes
and becomes a huge hit.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Wow.
So,
That is something else.
I had
man.
no idea.
I didn't either.
No clue.
I didn't realize that, but that's right. That's right.
but
And
it's an
that's where-
interesting show, because it's one of those, when you were doing Blossom, you knew you were successful. You knew you were successful because you got another season, right? And you knew
Right,
that
yeah.
people were watching the show, and primetime is a whole different beast than what we were doing. Yeah, we all were just like, but this is fun, we're just kind of chugging along. No social media, so you had no idea that people were actually engaged until you did like an autograph signing or something like that.
Right.
And then you would have maybe 2,000 people show up, and the mall would say, "We've never seen this many people," and then you felt like, "Oh wow, somebody's actually watching our show."
Isn't that
cool.
great?
But it was
Yep.
just a different time back then, and
You know
yeah.
what? You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it
People
was.
always ask me, when do I know when like the woe thing took off? And I say the exact same thing. I said it in an episode of a show as a joke. I know the studio audience laughed, so I had that gratification.
Yeah.
But it was a month before that show aired.
It wasn't until people started screaming
And then-
like at you across the streets.
And then
that you
literally,
were-
it was months. I think like the following year, and then all of a sudden somebody would be like, whoa, or something, and I would be like, oh my God, wow, they must have seen the line. And
Wow.
and then once that feedback started to happen, well, then they were writing it in to every show twice a week. But it was such again one of these weird slingshot things because, like you said, we had no social
Honestly,
media. There
I
was
kind
no
of-
instant
I kind of prefer
recognition
that.
or gratification
I,
of
you
any
kind
of
of,
that.
I almost prefer that a little bit.
I appreciate those times
Well,
for sure.
they try to recreate the atmosphere with the zero press. We're just going to kind of dump it out there with the streamers, like
Yeah.
it's a great show, but that you don't see some of these massive publicity schemes for some of these shows, and I think they're trying to do those organic type of metrics because in a world this day and age, I mean, it's nearly impossible to be filming something and it go out and then you come back to do a second season and not know if it's a hit or not. It's virtually impossible.
It
Nobody
is
takes that
impossible.
chance
No,
anymore. Yeah.
nobody does it anymore.
No.
You're not just in it making it and then the whole thing goes out and you watch it unravel. It just
Yeah.
doesn't happen anymore.
I know. No, it's really. When did you actually start? Was Saved by the Bell the first thing you did?
No.
No. So when we were at the 90s con, Soleil Moon Frye was there, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Soleil, I did her show, I think when I was 12, I did Punky Brewster.
Wow.
What, you did really?
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And I
Dude.
think that was like the very first thing that I ever did, I think was an episode of Highway to Heaven. And I might have been 10 at that
Oh
point.
my gosh.
And then Punky Brewster, I did when I was 12. Soleil took me to my first club. I think she was maybe 10 years old. We were clubbing.
God.
So classic.
Sounds about right.
That is so classic.
All right.
That
Yeah,
is
you
so
know, Soleil and I worked
classic.
together. Believe it or not, we did a pilot together for NBC. How about this? It was Ron Howard's first directing job on television.
Wow.
Yes, called Little Shots, and it was basically Goonies.
Goonies, yeah, I remember
before Goonies.
Wow.
It was 1982, and Soleil and I bonded because
They went to nightclubs as well
No.
at 8 or 9 years
no,
old.
no, no,
She
no,
took him out.
I was
Soleil's
6.
always been real connected. She still is.
I
She
was
always,
6.
She's hanging out with Christopher
Yeah,
McQuarrie. Did you
yes,
see that? I'm
she's
like,
always so
what the
connected.
heck? Yeah.
I know. She's like,
Her-
you should. We
her
were
whole
talking.
life.
She was on the show, and she was on the pod.
She's
And we were
awesome.
talking
We
about
love-
movies
love
and everything.
Soleil.
Soleil.
And Andy was like, "I'm directing." She's like, "You should really pick the brain of my friend." And we're like,
Yeah, like,
"Okay,
who's
who's
that?"
your friend? Your directing friend? Who's that?"
Yeah.
She's like,
oh,
it's
Christopher
You know,
McQuarrie.
he works with Tom Cruise a lot. We're like,
McQuarrie?
pick.
His-
Tom Cruise just said he's literally the greatest auteur of a generation.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll pick his brain.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I
and
make
we
Christmas movies.
Yeah,
but
and we-
I'll sure. I mean, like, yeah, I've directed a couple of Christmas movies and a B action film.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm down.
I'm down. But we bonded because there was a big chase sequence on bikes, which is why it was so reminiscent of the Goonies. And neither Soleil nor I knew how to ride bikes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember that.
Believe it or not, Jeff Cohen from Goonies was in it. There was like a bunch of young kids that were all in this movie together, and it was about a band of neighborhood kids that had to go. There was an evil guy in the neighborhood, Smokey Joe, and we had to go sneak into his house and everything like that. And it was literally Goonies. I mean,
Hey,
I also
Joey,
learned-
Joey, I bet on your resume it said that you knew how to ride a bike, though. And
Oh,
ride a
it did.
motorcycle.
I knew
Absolutely.
everything.
I know how to do
Kayaking,
everything. Yeah.
fencing.
Roller
Yeah, it was
skate.
fencing.
Gymnastics. I also
Roller-
learned how to ride a bike on a set.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
So Soleil and I had to go through a crash course to learn how to ride bikes, and
Oh
that's
my
where
God,
we
that is
really
so
bonded.
that is so Hollywood kid, like child actor, right?
Yeah,
I
Like,
know.
Yeah.
not knowing how to ride a bike, not
I know.
can't skateboard,
No.
Nope.
can't
Nope.
roller skate,
No.
none of that, none of that.
I
Yeah.
could tap dance and sing. That was it.
I legitimately learned how to do everything, all those things you said
Yeah.
on a set after
Yes.
agreeing to the job, saying I know how to do them.
Yes.
So what I gotta ask, what is your origin story when
Yeah.
it comes to getting into? Because I didn't know that you would actually. Okay, you were already on TV at 10 years old. So what was that origin there?
Because you were born in California?
I was born in LA. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
born in LA.
Wow.
My parents are immigrants from Holland. My next sibling is 11 years older than me. They were all born in Holland, and they came out here, and then I
Wait,
came 11
what?
years
Mark,
later.
I didn't know that.
It's crazy, dude.
So my parents weren't in the industry. It was just one of those things. My mom had a friend who was a model, like print stuff for like May
Mhm.
Company or Mervin's or things like that. And she said,
Yeah, dude.
"Oh, your son is cute. You should get him into modeling, like just doing print stuff." So that's how I started. I was like 4 years old. But when we started, my mom had no idea. She's an immigrant from Holland.
Yeah.
It was one of those things, no different really, I guess, than what my kids do now with Little League or, going for horseback riding lessons or
Yeah.
whatever. It
Yeah.
was one of those things that after school, hey, we have an audition. Do you want to go?
Oh my gosh.
Sure. Yeah, it sounds like fun. We would just go, and it just continued to kind of snowball after that. I got my SAG card, I think, when I was 10. So 1984, I got it, and from there, you just start doing things. So that's what I'm saying. I didn't take it seriously until probably
Right.
in my
Yeah.
early 20s, like late
Yeah.
teens, early 20s, where I said, "Oh my God, this is a career."
That's
It's-
almost good though, right? Because when you're young and when you're
Yeah,
in it,
dude.
you shouldn't be taking it seriously. You should just be having fun with it.
You know,
well,
and
it's
then
so
that charm is almost something you need to almost kind of also recapture if you can at times.
You
because
know-
it's-
I don't know, because when you talk about child actors, like I look back at like even Maya Bialik, right? I look back at Maya and I'm like, she had her shit together, right? I look back at like even guys like Leonardo DiCaprio. We kind of, all of us kind of grew up, and Tobey Maguire. There were certain people in this business, and I kind of think you too as well, Joey, is that I looked at you guys and I'm like, those are professionals in my eyes at that young age. Like I'm like, they know what they want to do. I always felt like I was just like an outsider because I was the kid that knew how to ride bikes and play street hockey or skateboard, because that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an athlete. I was racing motorcycles when I was 5 years old, and
Really?
that was my background. And then, oh, by the way, I was doing this on the side, right? I was doing acting on the side. So I always felt like, I wasn't where the level of what you guys were at, because
Sure.
I felt like you guys were actors and I was just like this outsider looking in.
That's so crazy. And it's so funny because I didn't even notice any of that whenever we were together or we ran into each other. We were on, remember the MTV Rock and Chalk basketball games and baseball games, those things we would do. I just remember thinking, well, first of all, let me just say, I love the fact that you treat it like that your mother treated it almost like a hobby. Our parents did
Similar.
that. And even though I loved it and I was the driving force behind it, like I knew I wanted to do it, which is probably the difference, is that I actually wanted to do it. Like I was very much into it.
Yeah, you were.
But at the same time, I loved my friends and I loved my life. My parents kept us in my school back in Pennsylvania. Every 3 weeks I would fly back. I was a lifer at Abington Friends. I graduated from there. So I was never into that LA like young actor scene ever. And it was always a hobby. My mom said if my grades dipped below, a 4.0 or a 3.8, like I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So to me, it was a hobby. It was like playing those travel league sports teams, just like you're talking about. And my best friend, both his boys played in incredible baseball leagues, and they traveled all over the country, and they were incredible athletes. That's how I treated this. So that perspective, I think, is so healthy, man.
So healthy.
It's so healthy because your success as a person shouldn't be predicated on your success as a young person trying to act or have a career, And I feel like, but one of the things I remember is that I always felt very inferior to you because when we would do these things that actually meant something to me.
He was the real
Rock
deal.
and Jock,
Yeah,
sports
Mark
stuff.
was the real deal.
Mark would always come in and crush this
Of
shit.
course.
Yeah, dude.
I'd be like, damn it, man. Gosselaar, dude, that guy is such
I can play baseball on TV.
Yeah.
But you
That
can play
guy-
baseball in real life.
I'll never
Yeah.
forget, like Rock and Jock baseball. He'd come out. First of all, he looked like an athlete.
course.
because he had plays. He was in his. I was always thinking, like, damn, why does he look so much cooler than me in that outfit? He looks so much. He could wear the uniform so much better. Son
That's
of
so
a
funny.
bitch. No,
That's so
yeah,
funny.
but you were always so cool. There were dudes that I ran into that were not, because I was always like a couple years younger than everybody. And now it means nothing. But back then,
I get it.
like
Yeah.
15 and 17 and a half is a big deal.
Yeah.
But I would be at those events. When he was 18, I was 16. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
was not
Huge.
your guy's age. So now it's nothing, but then it was so weird.
I
So
get
I'd
it.
be sitting there, and it'd be you, and it'd be Mario, and it'd be these guys, and Dan Cortez, and all these guys.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
Remember Dan always was like, Jen, I'd be like, son of a bitch. I always felt so inferior
That's
in those
funny.
in those environments,
That's funny.
which honestly meant so much more to me.
Isn't that funny?
Than being on a set or on a
Yeah.
hit show. Like it meant I'll never
it.
forget it going
Yeah.
to those sort of athletic
Yeah.
competition things. We had the Sega All-Star Kids Challenge. I don't know if you ever remember this at Universal Studios. Remember those two that there are pictures
I have. So
There
I
are
have. That's
pictures
my like first.
of you, me, Mario.
With our
And-
name on our shirts? Is
Yes.
That, yeah. I was always
I'm
wondering,
sure
like,
you've
what
seen
was
them.
that? Yeah.
It was man, Sega and I believe like maybe Nickelodeon at the time would come together and they'd host these sort of exhibition type athletic events, sort of like decathlon events. But for us, we'd have like, be like water guns
I remember
and slides. Right.
This really imprinted on me because that's the first time I actually met Mark.
Okay.
So I was like the little kid, and so I have all these memories of you guys being like the big guys.
Oh, it was
doing all
like
this
Jason
stuff.
Hervey
Yeah.
and all these guys.
Yeah, I remember.
And I'll never forget. I always wanted to be a couple of years. Mark and I were on the same team. I think we only did it like 3 years because
Okay.
and they would air them. They would be on
Yeah, I
television. I
remember.
think NBC would put them on Saturday morning or something like that, and
Yeah.
they did very well. But I never wanted to be against them because he would just kick my ass every
Yeah.
time, and I was like, damn it, I hated it.
Do you
We had,
have a
like,
baseball glove? What the hell is that?
Oh yeah. I'm. We talk about our kids. My kids are high level travel ball baseball.
Oh, okay.
So
Of course they are.
I'm
Of
always
course.
like breaking in a glove. It's something to do with my hands, so I'm breaking in a glove.
Love it, man.
He's a catcher, and
That's
so
catcher's mitt.
I'm
Yep.
breaking it in.
Yeah,
That is
love
so
it.
cool.
It's a good thing to like do with your hands if you're watching TV or something like that. And you're like, I just have to do something always. So
That's
get it, man.
awesome. When we used to play, I remember my dad would get the baseball,
Oil them up
and then he'd put a bunch of oil on the glove
And
and
then
then
duct
wrap
tape.
it in
Yeah.
duct tape and just work it. He
Yeah.
said every day, come over, just squeeze it.
Yeah.
And, rip
Yep.
it down. And because my dad had a glove, the first glove that I played with
I
was
remember
my
that.
dad's glove.
I remember
okay?
that.
Right.
From the early '60s. Okay,
Yeah.
and this glove was
It was like paper.
it
Like,
was
like a
see-
paper bag.
Yeah, it was.
like
Yeah, it was
the
so
wildest
so
glove.
wild.
It was
Yeah.
so big, and I'll never
Yeah.
forget it. I was playing.
just
I was
caress
playing
the
little
ball.
league,
It's-
little
yeah.
league.
Yeah.
Okay, and I had the catch of a lifetime with my dad's glove. I was playing center field. I must have been, my God, Mark, I must have been 8 years old. Okay, and I remember running back, and this ball was towering. And I remember literally, it was such a huge glove.
Yeah.
I was squeezing the glove to keep it on my hand because it was my dad's glove. And I literally was running back, and I just went like this, literally. And somehow
The ball would.
landed in the glove, and I was like,
That's amazing.
it was the greatest catch of my life.
It's amazing.
And I was wearing my dad's glove. So
I
he would-
remember that glove.
You remember that
I wish
glove?
we still had that.
No,
dang
me
glove.
too.
Man.
Me too.
well,
I
that's like in the
don't remember-
Sandlot where that kid just like puts his hand up.
Yes,
Pretty much.
that's what,
Okay.
yeah.
That was
Sandlot
literally
moment.
my moment. It was literally my moment. And I had my dad's glove, and then I remember when I had to get my own glove because I was playing a lot in school and stuff, and so he showed me how to break it in. So it brings back such
I know.
memories.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
The smell of the oil too, in
Yep.
particular. Like,
Oh yeah. How do you break them in? Do you
Just-
just
you
work
just
them,
work
or
them.
do you put something in it?
Yeah, I first oil it and then, put a ball in and then wrap it. I oil it and then basically just, after that process of like softening it up, I'll just put it on my hand and then just sort of work it. Like there's a certain way now that gloves are like, they're more like a box shape inside, like catching gloves. So you kind of have to form it a little bit different than kind of how I grew up. But my son likes a little bit a box shape. So I just kind of, after I oil it, I just put it on my hand. We'll play catch or whatever. We have a pitching machine. So I'll just take, some balls to it, but just keeping it on your hand and kind of working it in and just the softer it gets, the better it is. But you just got to manipulate it. The leather is so good that you got to really sort of grind it down to get it soft.
That is so cool. I
Yeah,
love
it's
that.
a classic.
How old
classic
is your
routine.
how old's the boy that's the catcher?
So he's 11. He's 11 right now.
Cool,
My
man.
daughter is 10. She's a high level softball player. So she's club and rec softball. She
Is
plays
your wife
club
an
volleyball.
athlete?
My wife is taller than me. I love to say that. Yeah.
Wait,
Wow.
dude, you're the Billy Joel in the relationship?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
honey.
I mean,
Hi.
she's just under 6'1".
Wow. Dude.
She went to McGill up in Montreal. She played basketball up there. When I met her, we
Wow.
were playing volleyball together, and she's an athlete for sure.
Wow.
So our kids have no choice but to be
Yeah.
sort of
That's awesome.
in some athletics. My son's also, we just do multi-sports. So he plays club baseball, which goes year round here in
Right.
SoCal.
Yep.
But he also plays rugby, and we have a rugby
Oh.
tournament, international rugby tournament in Florida. So he plays that as well.
Wow.
So he plays everything. Yeah, we're
That's
just.
cool.
I was actually texting someone I hadn't texted in a long time, and they're like, "What's new?" And I'm like, "You know what? I guess we're just doing the usual stuff of just being a husband and a father, and then like everything gets all my time, if I'm not working, gets taken up by just following the kids, and I love it. I just love. I love just watching them grow and become little people, and it's just such a nice. I feel really comfortable in my position right now in
That's
life,
great.
of like just being there for them and the wife, and it's just it's a good place to be.
It's great, dude. It's great to hear.
That's really a tremendous thing to hear.
Yeah, man.
And honestly, it means everything. It doesn't, like, when you feel comfortable in the place where you are, it means everything. Like, it means
Great.
everything. Because when you don't feel comfortable, I know you've been through things, I've been through things. You don't feel comfortable, and it's the worst. Like, you talk about fidgeting or having things. I mean, that's when your mind starts to spiral, because that, especially doing what we do, that peace of mind and that comfort level there in the most important moments in your life, if you don't have that, it really does lend itself to a lot of anxiousness, a lot of just anxieties, a lot of just.
Thanks, Joe.
But
Appreciate it.
no, I feel like in so many ways, having kids and doing that, and it is really.
Yeah, I'm envious of you
It
guys.
is really one of the greatest things.
I mean, I'm
ever.
45. I don't have kids. And to be honest, I'm like, man, what did I do?
That's why you're so weird, dude.
What did I do?
You're so weird.
What did I do?
You're working on it.
Yeah,
You're going to be a late
but-
bloomer.
Man, I see my friends that are, have no kids or haven't had any kids, and I don't know. There's nothing. It's a different life for sure.
It is. It is a
But
different life.
it's their life, and it's like I look at it, and I sometimes I envy it. I'm like, man, to have that responsibility not be on my plate every day, every moment,
Yeah.
is a cool thing.
Yeah.
They look at me and think like, oh, that responsibility on my plate would look great and would be amazing. So the grass is always greener on the other side.
That's true.
But I don't know. There's. I mean, did you ever expect to be at your age having a 2-year-old right now?
No, never.
Joe,
Never.
You know what I mean?
Never, man.
Yeah,
Never.
good.
No, it's no, never. I never imagined it. And that was the journey of my life. The way it went, and life's been. I mean, it's been up and down. And it's been the journey is real. I mean, it's like work is one thing, and my career journey has been one, but my personal life has been one as well. I'm thankful that I'm still here. I'm thankful that there's a lot of love around me, and that I have my kids, and I have my wife, and I have my brothers, and I have my parents, and I mean, there's so many great things, but I never expected it would be this way. But I'm thankful for it. I really am, and like you said, I look at Matt, and I've had so much responsibility in my life, since the time I was 29 years old, and Matt hasn't had any of that. But there's, look, I look at that and I go, well, but you've had your journey. It's really astute the way that you just put that, because, and he looks at mine and said, boy, I would love to have that. And sometimes not having any of the responsibility, as you just said, would be an interesting breather as well, where you could just literally just think about yourself for a minute, because that's the last thing I do, what I mean?
You don't want that. I'm telling you.
No, I'm not.
You don't want that.
I'm just saying it would be interesting when I look at your life and I go, okay,
I get it, but
okay,
in the end,
I could see it. You know what I mean?
In the end of the day, in my opinion, the only times that really, like, when you really feel, just as a human being, but especially I think as a man, is when you feel like you're in service to your family.
Absolutely. 100%.
Like when you feel like you're a good husband, when you feel like you're a good father.
Yep.
Those are the things. You can have all this money in the world, man, and you. Perfect example. I was just reading this this article about a guy who sold his company for $982 million.
Right.
Doesn't have a strong female in his life. Doesn't have kids, and he wrote this whole op-ed article about how he's he doesn't even know what to do with his life anymore.
Yeah.
The money didn't bring him happiness.
Right.
Now that he can buy everything that he wants
Yeah.
and just focus on himself,
Yeah.
he feels like it's the most superficial life he
Yeah.
could have possibly had. And he would give it all away. He was like, I would give all this money
Yes.
away.
Give it to me.
And
Yes.
that comes
Yeah,
from another-
exactly.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Actually, we can split it even.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Mark
We'll-
and I have kids. You know, we can, it doesn't grow on trees, guys. You know.
I'll take it to be happy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I look. I think you're right. Acts of service are a big thing for me.
That's it, man.
Like I even make like toast. You know, because as the kids get older, as I'm sure you can attest, they need you less and less, right? So you're still there, but you're there in different ways. You know, and my Charlie is Miss Independent and doing her thing, and
Yeah.
we talk, and I text her every other day, but we talk, maybe once a week or twice a week, and she's at school and stuff, and but Libby, even just to be able to still make her toast in the morning and her little glass of pineapple juice before I take her to school, it makes me feel good.
Of course, man.
Like I do it more for me than her. She almost doesn't even want to eat. She's like, I don't eat in the morning. I'm like, well, yes, you are. You are eating. You have to have a little bit of substance in your food. It's a little sustenance, honey. And then I bombard them with facts and things, and like, Dad, stop. I'm like, look, go easy on the sunscreen. It's not great for you. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just makes me feel good. So
Listen, when I was in my late 30s, I went through a tough time, and I went to a therapist. Somebody had said, this is the guy you want to go see. So I went to this therapist, and he says, tell me what's going on. And so I go into this, long story of everything that's sort of culminated up until that point.
Yeah.
And, a real sob story there. And he kind of cuts me short after 10 minutes. He's like, listen, he goes, here's the deal. He goes, people will say to you, life is short. He goes, it's not. Life is long. He goes, you're 36. He goes, you've really only had about 18 years to yourself that you've been able to make your own. He goes, before then, you were a product of your parents. They were telling you what to do. He's like, you really only lived 18 years of your life. He goes, you're 36. How many more 18 years do you have down the line? And I said, well, quite a few. He's like, think of what you did in those 18 years that were yours. Think of what you're going to do in the next 18 years and the next 18 years and the next 18 years. Yeah. He's like, life is long. So treat it as life is long. You'll be okay. And I was like, it just changed my whole perspective of like, I don't need to rush to do anything. And I can accept what's happening to me right now. And life is long. I mean, I look at myself and I go 51. The only thing I look at is I'm 51 and my son is 11 or my daughter is 10. And I look and I go, gosh, when I'm 60, she's going to be 20, and that kind of bums me out because I want to be around when they're 50. Right. I would love to be there for them when they're 50. I wish I could still be there so I could see them and I could see their lives and whatever they've done, whether they have kids or no kids or whatever they've done in the kids. I just want to be there for them. So that's the only part that bums me out. But other than that, I mean, you're 45, you're what did you say? You're 45,
45.
Matthew?
Yeah.
You got another 45 years in you. Think about it. To do whatever the heck you want or not want. It's all yours. Life is pretty cool.
Well, what do you guys think of Brothers of the Frontier 2? We got a script. We bring the hair back. No, I'm just kidding.
Investors,
bring the hair back.
Hey,
you got great hair.
Whatever I have left, I'm going to pull out.
You got great hair.
I remember thinking, like, I'm going to lose my hair because of Brothers of the Frontier because it was literally like pulling on my hair. Like, I'm not going to have any hair left.
Yeah,
I know, dude.
Oh,
Look,
yeah.
I
Damn
know.
those Lawrence brothers.
Andy's got the best hair out of the two of us. I'm still holding on to mine, but it's not. You remember, dude, the hair that we used to have. I mean, mine was like,
No, both you guys.
But I'm still
I literally have when I think of you guys, I've got a picture of both your guys' hair right now in my head. In that era.
Oh yeah.
I remember his swoop with like the blonde.
Oh my God.
And I remember you're like crazy, like
oh my God.
like curly, like
Mullet,
wavy.
curly,
Piazza. He had
and I hated my long hair. All I wanted was the haircut that Mark had. I hated you know that. I hated my long hair.
That's right, you did. He wanted your
so
hair
much.
And I probably wanted your hair because every time I was off season, I would grow my hair out.
Oh, that's so funny.
I remember, and
That's
then
so
when
funny.
they finally, if I'm not mistaken, when they did the college years, you grew it out.
Yeah,
you did not
yeah.
have.
Wow.
Because I remember Mark started like working out. Remember, we were both doing it, like trying to get bigger at the same time.
Yeah.
And
It was bigger
the
was
bulk
better.
Years,
Yeah.
stupid bulk years. But I remember, like, I would see him and he'd have long hair, and I'd be like, why? all I wanted was your haircut. What the hell did you grow your hair out for?
That's funny.
Because for the show, they were like, you cannot cut your hair.
Yeah.
So, and then I
Oh,
shaved
right.
my head, and then people thought I did it because I was bald, and I didn't. I just shaved it because I was just angry. So I just buzzed it clean, and then I
funny.
grew it back, and now it's somewhere, now it's just my middle-aged man hair,
Yeah.
But at any rate, yeah, man, it's been 45 years. It's crazy.
I just love that, we're all still here.
We're
and
still
still,
kicking it, man.
Still, and life is good.
And more to
Yep.
come, like you said.
And
man.
more
And
to come.
To
The
come.
next 20 years, see what the next 20 years brings.
Yeah.
us. I'm excited.
Maybe we should hang out for sure. And I mean that. I'm not
Definitely
saying
play
that for
some
the show.
music.
Yeah.
man.
Definitely play some music. I would
I'm gonna
love to
ta-
do that. I really would.
he's
Yeah, I'm gonna
gonna
text
take you up on that.
Mark,
we
Yeah,
so
dude.
appreciate you making time for us, man. It was
Yo,
such a pleasure chatting, dude.
I'll
You're
just
really,
say-
really stand-up guy.
I'll just
really.
say this:
Thank
we
you for
run
coming
into
on.
people that have been friends that still are friends, and they say, "Yeah, great," because I know it's like, "Hey, will you come on the pod?" They're like, "Oh, great," and then they never do. And then every now and then, honestly, like
Yeah, it's true.
there are stand-up people, and I'm not saying that because you're here. There are stand-up people who have been genuinely consistent,
Yeah.
nice, honest, genuine human beings,
Yep.
and that has always been you, dude. You,
Yep,
you were
for
even
sure.
nice to me when you were 18. I was 16, and you didn't need to be nice to me, dude. You were nice to me.
For
I
sure.
mean it. And I know now the
appreciate
age is nothing, but it was a big deal to me then. And you
Yeah,
were
for
always
sure.
the coolest dude out of that whole group that
I
was like
agree.
2-3 years older than me.
I
Truly.
agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Thank
I'll
you.
never forget it. We had a great time working on that movie together, and it was great seeing you a couple weeks ago, too.
Heck yeah,
awesome.
man.
And it was
I
great having you on the
appreciate
show,
Yeah,
man.
dude. Thanks for being here, bro.
And we'll see
Thank
you
you.
soon.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining us here on the Brotherly Love Pod. Mark, we really appreciate you. Like and
And
subscribe.
everybody, the best way that you can continue to support this show like you have, which means so much to us, is go to our premium feed. Link is in the description. And also check out our brand new merch store. Link is in show notes. Everybody, that is there for you. And I hope you guys enjoyed as much as we do.
And tune in to see Found.
Yep, tune in to see
Please.
Found. Mark's show. He's amazing on
Yep,
it.
great
and,
show.
Honestly, everybody, round of applause. Mark Paul Gosselaar, everybody.
Thank you so much,
Mark.
See you next week.
All right, pal. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk. We'll text.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on the Brotherly Love Pod.
Please like and subscribe to our YouTube.
And check out our online merch store. You can find the link in our show description.
For bonus content, subscribe to our premium feed, and we will see you
Next
next week.